Hello, socialites. Welcome back to Survivor Social, the Survivor podcast where we discuss Survivor with a focus on the social elements of the game. My name is Tegwyth, and as always, I'm joined by my incredible co-host, Cara. Cara, how are you doing today? I'm so excited. We're about to talk about Operation Italy.
Yes, I can't wait. It was another great episode, and it didn't disappoint, so I'm excited to talk about it.
Oh my gosh. I mean, didn't disappoint is, I think,
Mm-mm.
selling it. I'm not short, but it was just like, oh my, that was crazy. If you're watching live, make sure to remember that, send us questions, all that good stuff. We love having conversations with you guys. And as always, before we dig into the episode, make sure to like and subscribe to Survivor Now on YouTube and Spotify. Cara, let's get into the episode. What did you think of the overall episode? That's what I want to kind of start off with.
Mm-hmm. I thought it was a great episode, and I feel like this episode really showed how and why Andy can win, and it felt very, very validating to have this episode.
Truly, truly. We have Daryl here in the comments saying Operation Italy, Andy, the mafia boss. And we've got some other people saying, like, looks like it wasn't Operation Get Teeny Out after all, like I thought. It turned out that it was Operation Get Caroline Out. Skylar, I totally see that. Yeah, it was crazy. And I will say, for all of the people in the beginning who were Andy haters, we were on Team Andy day one. Yeah. We fought over Andy in the in the preseason casting or whatever, and Cara got him from me just before.
That's my guy, holding my draft, making my draft stay alive.
Is he the last one in your draft?
He is.
I mean, I still have Teeny and Sue, but I feel like Andy's gonna go the distance. I don't know.
I think so too.
So let's start just first off with whether or not you think this was a good move for Andy. Because obviously there was a 5-person alliance, which people know that I went on record saying that I don't think that alliances can form this late in the game for reasons that we saw. And people argue that maybe he was actually on the bottom, and we did see the 4 women, 4 women talk about wanting to do women's alliance, which in theory would put him at the bottom in the 5-person alliance. So, Cara, how do you feel that how this move was for Andy?
I think it was a good move. It definitely, I feel like shows that he's not that he hasn't been playing, he obviously has been playing, but I feel like it makes it more visible that he made a move. I do think it's maybe a little concerning going into next episode with Rachel having her block a vote and her idol and everything, which could get a little messy, but I still think they don't see him as big of a target as they see Genevieve and Sam. So I think he's going to be okay. But yeah, I feel like this was something he needed to do for the jury when he's there at the end.
Mm-hmm. Do you think this draws too much attention to him?
I don't think so. I guess it depends on how he goes about explaining it, but I feel like they're still going to discredit him.
Yeah, I get that. I just before we came on here, I saw a sneak peek of the episode. All Winter Survivor posted it on TikTok. I don't know where else it is. And basically it was like the first couple minutes of the episode, and we see kind of like the fallout of this. And this is something we don't normally get to talk about on Survivor Social because we usually do this so close to the actual show. But basically what we see in this first couple minutes is Teeny, Sue, and Rachel talking about how they were really upset with Andy. And Teeny opens it up and they say, like, you know what? Is Andy a much better player than we thought? Or are we worse than we thought? So that's kind of like an interesting comment to make. Also, we kind of see how Andy describes this move to Teeny, because Teeny basically pulls Andy aside. And basically we see that Andy says, you know what? I decided this right before Tribal Council. I knew you guys were splitting the votes, and I just felt like we had to get Caroline out, so I just flipped. And I'm curious as they see if that actually will stick. I don't know if that argument will stick. I feel like they're going to be able to poke holes in that, but just kind of an interesting perspective that we don't normally get to talk about because we don't normally see the next episode when we're doing this. Do you think that, like, knowing that information, do you think that, like, Andy might have a bigger target on his back this episode, or do you think it's still going to be on Sam and Genevieve?
Yeah, I do think it could put a bigger target on him. And I do think, if Rachel uses her block vote, that his vote could be the one that he blocks, which would make a difference because then he's completely out of it, and then the 3 of them can decide who they want to go. So yeah, I think he might be in some trouble.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. And I just still think that like Sam is still a physical threat, right? Sam is still winning rewards.
Mhm.
And Genevieve, we have this comment from Frank. Frank says Genevieve is still the tallest grass to clip with that move, even though Andy held the most pivotal role, but Sam and Jen had the most visible role, which is a very
Yeah.
interesting take as well. Genevieve already had a target on her back, and does this move make that target even bigger? I mean, I think it does. And I really think it could be Genevieve this next episode because of just the fallout of it all.
Yeah, I could see it being honestly, any one of those 3 going, but yeah. Yeah, I could see it being any one of those 3.
And so I do also want to say that I kind of agree with you in terms of like the I think it was kind of a good move for Andy to make. I think, he was on the bottom, and if you're going to make a move, final 7 is not a bad time to do it. I feel like, final 7, final 6 is the time to make a move. And you might even have a bigger target on your back, but you've got to do it sometime or else they're going to get you first. And
Mhm.
here he saw a clear way for it to happen, and they executed it perfectly.
Yeah, and there were so many ways for it to not happen as perfectly as it did. Like, Sue could have used her idol on Caroline, sending one of the 2 of them home. They could have just not split the votes and didn't listen to Andy and did with it the 4 girls wanted, and
Yeah.
yeah, and then that would have changed everything,
Yeah,
so
there were so many variables to this move to make it go wrong. And I'll first start off with
Mhm.
the choice that Sam made. So Sam made the choice to take Andy first and then Genevieve. In the moment, I went, "Oh, Sam. Oh, Sam, 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 you are making a wrong move." Obviously, I ate my words after that because it clearly worked. I feel like in other seasons, this choice would have really been the nail in his coffin.
Yeah.
And somehow it ended up being the thing that saved him in this game. And I really think it would have been Sam that went home. I think that like they could have, gone the other way. And like you said, so many
Mhm.
things had to happen. What do you think is the thing? Like, do you think that Andy ever waffled, ever wavered in voting with Operation Italy?
And, like, voting with the other group?
Yeah, yeah, voting out
I
Sam.
don't I don't think so because I think he really wanted this move to go through to show people that he, like, outwardly did something like this. I think he wanted this to show the jury, and I don't and he came up with the whole plan. I don't see
True.
why come up with this whole elaborate plan just to then go against your own plan when you
That's
didn't need to do that whole thing.
I mean, I would say the only thing that I could think of is the target changed. Is
Mhm.
Caroline a big enough target to risk this kind of thing?
That's true. It would have been better if it was Rachel, but I guess he
Yeah,
could have abandoned the plan, but I don't know if he could have then done it again next round.
that's true. And then I feel like they wouldn't. I mean, it would be only one person to be able to work with. One of the other two would have gone out. Um,
Yeah.
and Daryl says Andy never wavered. He wanted this move.
Yeah.
And Roy says Andy saved Sam and Jen. Now he'll take them out. Interesting. Do you think
Probably.
you think Andy's gonna gun for one of these two next?
Hmm. If not them, then Rachel, because I think those are his 3 biggest
Yeah,
competitions, and I feel like him sitting in the end with Sue and Teeny is his best bet.
I agree. And I think that, I definitely don't think he wants Sue on the jury. We got a little bit of a snippet in that clip that I was talking about of how,
Mhm.
of Sue talking about, she's livid, I can't believe he flipped. That's not how I would play this game. And that's somebody you don't want on the jury because that's somebody who's going to campaign against you. And he already has Sierra campaigning against him. So
Yeah.
even if Sue isn't a goat, I don't think you want her on the jury because of that kind of sentiment.
No, and I can even see Teeny being maybe a little bitter or upset about it if they're on the jury too, so I feel like that's another good person to have next to you.
Agreed. I totally agree. And I really, even if this doesn't work out for Andy and he gets voted out, I still think it is one of the best moves, one of the most entertaining episodes that we have seen in New Era Survivor, but just honestly in Survivor in general. Like, it was, the editors did a great job. The players did an incredible job. Andy and everybody involved. It was Oscar worthy for all accounts, for acting, for like editing, for drama, just for everything.
Yeah, and like the fact that they got it done is just so impressive to pull something off like that and to convince so many people to do what you want them to do, exactly how it has to happen, is just so impressive.
Yeah, it's so impressive. Now, at the reward, we see this happening, and we kind of see Andy come up with this plan. Do you think that Sam and Genevieve can take any of the credit for this? Obviously, we know that they all play a part in this move. But do you think that, if Sam or Genevieve is sitting at the end and they're using this move as a feather in their cap or whatever, that they can say, you know what, we knew we could manipulate Andy. We knew he was going to come up with a plan, and we knew he would flip on you guys. That's why I decided to bring him or whatever. Do you think they could flip it against him?
Mm. I don't know. I feel like they can talk about it as how they like helped execute it, but I don't think they can take full credit as it being their plan.
Hmm.
What do you think?
I agree. I feel like if I'm on the jury, especially if Andy is on the jury, I would be like,
Mhm.
guys, come on. Like, you were dead in the water without me. You can try to
Yeah.
take as much credit as you can, but one of you was going to go home, and I made it so that neither of you did.
Yeah, he
Um,
saved them.
he saved them. He could say, I was one going on the limb. I was one that was voted out because, if we're talking about Andy's on the jury, I was the one voted out because of this move, whatever else. I really think that there isn't, I think that they can make an argument if it's worded properly, but if Andy's on the jury, I feel like he will push back on that.
For sure. And because it was his idea, he saved the two of them. Like without Andy, one of them would have been gone this round, and there was really no saving them without him. So
Yeah, absolutely. I also think it's interesting. So Sam had a tweet this week, and Sam tweeted, Operation Italy doesn't work if Genevieve or I win immunity, or whatever he said. I'm paraphrasing, or I think I made it longer. Um, um, do you think that he and Genevieve intentionally threw that challenge?
hmm. Ooh,
Right?
maybe. Yeah, because I guess if one of them had immunity, then they can't really split the votes, so I guess yeah, it couldn't go through.
Yeah.
That's risky though. That's really risky.
Very risky, which is why I kind of think they didn't do it, because like, why would the editors
Yeah.
leave that out? But also, I'm like right in between of them actually throwing it and then them not throwing it, because it was Genevieve, Andy, Sam, and Rachel in the end, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So it's like, great. That's such a risky move to trust one person who you have not been able to trust so far in this game. Andy literally helped vote out his number one, right? Earlier,
Yeah.
the jury, in a small part because of Andy voting or turning on her. It's just such an incredibly risky move that I respect if they did throw it.
Yeah. I think yeah. If they did throw it and it still worked out, like that's impressive, but it's so risky to do something like that this late in the game when you
Exactly.
know you're at risk. So,
Exactly. It's very
yeah.
interesting. Um, we have Taylor here in the comments saying, I think Sam and Jen get credit for this plan because it took all of them to pull off. It was Andy's plan, but it's debatable that it was all him. It brings into question the size of his role in the plan. That's interesting.
Hmm.
Um, we also have Daryl saying that he does not think that Sam threw the challenge. So, I think it's just interesting. Skylar says, didn't Sam also say that when he saw that Rachel was about to win immunity, that he tried to win the immunity? I could have sworn I saw him say that. I think that was also a part of the post, like right there in the very end. He like was like, all right, no, I gotta try to actually win this, because if Rachel wins, the whole plan is moot anyway.
Yeah. I guess as long as Rachel didn't win, it would have been fine.
Yeah.
literally anyone but Rachel.
It worked out. It honestly, it worked out. I think Caroline was a really big threat. And let's talk about Caroline a little bit because
Mhm.
a lot of people online are saying, like, I don't see that Caroline's a big threat. I think that, she clearly wasn't, doing, quote unquote, doing anything in the game. And I, pulling an Emily Flippin, would like to push back on that a little bit because I think obviously when we watch Survivor, we watch it through the lens of editing. We watch it through the lens of telling the story of a winner potentially. I mean, not potentially, but a winner.
Mhm.
And, if Caroline goes out on this big move, obviously she doesn't win the game. But if Caroline doesn't go out, I actually see that she has a good shot to win. And I would love to hear your thought on this. So what do you think? If she continues in the game, if she sits at the final three, do you think that Caroline had a shot at potentially winning the title of Sole Survivor?
I think she would have had a chance to win. I feel like she carried a lot of the pre-merge for her tribe and like getting everyone together even a little bit into the merge. And yeah, and like I mean she did take help take Gabe out, which I feel like was a big point to her game. And like she has Sue. And yeah, I feel like she could definitely make points as to why she should win in the end. And I'm sure we're just not seeing everything Caroline has been doing. So
Yeah, I agree. And I think that, like, her social game was pretty good. She
yeah.
had a really good relationship with a lot of different people, with Teeny, obviously with Sue, with Gabe for some part of it, many other people, right? And I think that, like, she had some strategy. I mean, we saw her talk to Tiana. I've referenced that many times so far this season. I
Mhm.
loved that chat that they had. I think that she knew about Sue's idol. That is a strategy. The fact that she was able to figure that out and then keep that to herself, knowing where an idol is, and is very, very important.
Yeah.
And I think that she was really well spoken. I think if she sits at the end, she's going to be able to convince people as to why she deserves the title. And I think that her threat level is pretty high and deserving this kind of blindside. Um,
Yeah.
but I think it's interesting that people online aren't really seeing it, and I think it's partially due to the edit.
Yeah, and she's, like, always kind of been included in things, like, she's never really been left out of any plans or things that were going on, so I feel like that also is a point to her social game and how she was doing in the game.
Exactly. I think this is one of the first times that she's been out on a plan.
Yeah, yeah,
Important one to not be a
unfortunate.
part of,
Yeah.
but so crazy. Uh, Now, obviously, there are still a lot of advantages in the game, right? There's a block of vote that
Mhm.
Rachel has. Rachel has a hidden idol nobody knows about. Sue has an idol that now nobody knows about. So
Yep.
the block of vote has to be used this next time or not used at all. And then the two idols, I believe, go out at either, I think they go out at 5. They could go out at 6. Chat, let me know if I'm wrong. Um, do we think that we're going to see an advantage get in this next episode?
Definitely the block vote. I don't see why waste that and the chance to make a big move. I feel like the idols being both potentially being played at 5 is kinda crazy because that's, like, 2 locks in the final 4.
Yeah.
So that's a lot to think about, like, who's there. But I also could see if Rachel doesn't win immunity in this next episode that she plays her idol on herself just to make sure she's there in the next one and then win at 5.
Yeah. I think I think it'll be interesting because I think if one idol gets played, I believe both of them are going to get played, whether it's at this tribal
Yeah.
council or at final 5. I think when one gets played in this small numbers, you're going to have to be incredibly confident that another blindside is going to be pulled off against you to not play it.
Yeah. And I saw theories online about how people were speculating that Sue might play her idol for Rachel, and then Rachel does something with her idol to make a move, so that would be
Ooh,
very interesting.
that would be really interesting. That would be like a Natalie Anderson level. Like,
Mhm.
I would love that.
That would
Um,
be awesome.
we have Roy having thinking that Rachel goes out at fire. I've seen it in her glasses. I
Mhm.
don't know. I mean, I feel like I could see a lot of people going out at fire because of the edit. I've seen Rachel. I think Teeny could go out at fire.
Yeah.
I mean, I even could see Andy going out at fire.
Oh my gosh. I can I could see that too. I can't imagine Andy making fire. I feel like we haven't seen him do any fire making things, right?
I feel like there's no way Andy doesn't know how to make fire.
True. Do you think Andy is throwing competitions or he's
I
just
don't
not good at
know.
them?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think my hot take on Andy, I mean, it's not really that. I think it's probably a cold take on Andy's strategy or just gameplay, not even strategy, is that I think at the beginning of the game, obviously he just needed to get his feet under him. And I've said this before, but people still think that he, was doing all of that on purpose. And I don't think that's true. I think he's somebody that needed to, instead of jumping into freezing cold water out of a hot jacuzzi, he's somebody who would prefer to wade into it. But Survivor
Mhm.
throws you into that cold water, literally and figuratively. And I think it took him a second to acclimate. And I think once he acclimates, I think he's a little bit better. Now, in terms of his physical ability, I don't think he's throwing it, but I do think I can see him getting better at challenges. I think he's going through them a little bit better because I think it really just took him a second to, you know, get oriented and know where north is. And now I feel like he's going to be able to do better. Will he win? I don't know. I think if he wins, he's going to win this episode. Like he's going to win an immunity this
Mhm.
episode. For some reason, I felt it in my bones. Um, like I
Maybe
felt it in
he'll
my
comp
gut.
to the end.
That'd be that would be crazy. Like 47 or 37 winner. Like Nick Wilson.
That would be I feel like that would really, like, almost complete his game kind of, like, having those wins, doing he has a lot of stuff, like, I feel like out of not to say everyone hasn't been playing the game the whole time, but I feel like Andy has literally been playing this game every single day, like, he hasn't stopped strategizing, doing something, talking to people, making alliances, like, he's been on the entire time
Yep.
compared to everyone else, and I feel like if he was to then win a bunch of challenges at the end, I feel like that just completes his whole, like, Survivor game, and
Yeah.
another thing to talk about in the end.
Yeah. And I definitely think that he has the best story. I mean, maybe not in terms of
Yeah.
like his personal life, but in terms of the game of Survivor, if he's able to articulate it, I think that people, at least I would respect the story. I don't know if everyone will. People might really not like how he played his social game and like not played how he flip flopped. Apparently, he laughed when Caroline was being voted out, which I don't necessarily remember, but I don't not believe that it happened.
Yeah.
And that could also look bad to the jury. The jury sees all, or the jury sees a lot. So they could see that and really leave a bad taste in their mouth.
Yeah, I know, I keep going back and forth whether, like, everyone's just gonna be so bitter towards him and just, like, not respect the game he played, or they're gonna, like, be, like, impressed by it and be like, "You know what? He did a good job. He deserves it. He's been
Yeah.
playing the game," but it's really hard to tell.
Speaking of the jury, speak at the very end of the episode, right after everything flips and or everything happens, and Caroline is getting voted out, we get a glimpse of the jury, and we see. I think it was either Saul or Gabe, or Sierra. It was one of those three. It wasn't Kyle. Say it was Andy, and then
Mhm.
right after somebody says Andy flipped again. Now, is that to me, that wording, at least from the person who said it, and I think the person who said that was either Saul or Gabe, that to me means that they don't like that he flipped. Because to me, a flipper has a negative connotation, whereas a strategist, which I also think means somebody who flips, in some sense of sometimes, not all the time, um, means that they respect it. That kind of wording, what do you think that means in their view of him?
Like, they know what he's doing, like, he keeps going to he's just flipping to either side, which will, I guess, help him get further, but, like, I don't know, like, he has done it before and no one's, like, said anything or voted him out for it, so, like, he's been doing it successfully, and maybe they're just realizing that he's successful at it, if that
Yeah,
makes sense.
yeah. It's almost like the jury's getting blindsided by Andy's gameplay,
Yeah, they're
which
seeing it more and more each tribal.
more and more. And I think he is good at saying he's good at he's a good talker.
He is.
So I don't
which
know.
is important. Yeah.
It is very important. We have some comments here. Roy says flipping is good strategy when you do it right. Yep.
Yeah. And I don't think he's done it wrong. Like, I feel like every time he's flipped, like, it's a valid flip.
Yeah. Yeah. And I really think that like a lot of other people in the history of Survivor have done this. And I think if he goes to the end and he looks at people, at least in that 5 alliance, that say, you know, Caroline's definitely sitting there, but let's say, you know, Rachel's there or Teeny, whomever is there. He goes, you're going to look me in the eye and tell me I was not on the bottom of that 5. Would I rather be in the bottom of a 5 or a bottom of a 3? I'd rather be on the bottom of the 3.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Definitely.
and we have a really good point over here in the TikTok comments. Retro Ronnie, love him, he's great, says Teeny and Jen have also flipped too. It's not like he's the only person that has flipped this season. Has Teeny? I don't, maybe. Genevieve definitely has on Saul.
Yeah.
So
I don't think it's bad, but I could like see the players finding it annoying.
yeah, yeah. Skylar says maybe the jury are taking it as Andy being indecisive and messy. That's true.
Yeah.
And then Frank makes a really good point saying flipping is a negative now because they don't know Andy's game. But if he articulates why his position required flipping, he can win. I think needs a Marianne level final tribal council.
Yeah, he's gonna have to really
Yeah.
sell it.
If he makes
I
it
think
at
he
all,
can.
obviously. I think he can too. And truly, I think that he's gonna really be able. I don't know. I feel like he's gonna pull out some wins. I think he's gonna pull out some W's.
Yeah. I can't imagine him not sitting in the end. Like he has to be there. Or like how would he go out? You know?
I hope
Fire.
to never find out.
Yeah. Same.
Right? Oh my gosh. And, you know, I think if Andy does go out, you know, we're getting an interesting episode this next episode. We're getting, I believe, 2 people getting voted out in this next episode. So we're going from final 6 to a final 4. The finale part 2 is going to be a final 4, I believe. So we have a couple of people. We have 2 tribal councils, 2 immunities to go to, which is going to be a very interesting episode. They better, hey, Survivor, look at me, look at me, look at me. Do not leave us on a cliffhanger. I'm telling you. They probably will, and I will be.
They probably will.
I will be really upset, and I will tell you.
Yeah,
because
that would be crazy.
That's rude. But we have 2 people who might be able to who are going to go home, who are going to be joining the jury. So it's not just one vote out. And I think I would love to hear what you think, Cara. Who do you think has the highest probability from what we've seen, obviously, go home this next episode?
I think Sam.
You think so?
Yeah, I think it's tough. I mean, I guess depends if they really are upset with Andy after this, because then maybe Andy. But I still feel like they're probably thinking Sam is a big threat and like they might still be mad at him. Like I can't imagine Teeny is just like over it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I think Sam.
We have Daryl saying maybe cliffhanger before Andy leaves. Oh God, don't say that. Daryl says I think Sam will go next.
That's because Andy is the star.
Skylar says, why would they leave it at a cliffhanger? That's like stupid. I agree, Skylar. You and I on the same page. And Taylor says, LOL, they better not. Exactly. Skylar says, I think Sam goes out 6. Teeny has been wanting him out. We have a bunch of people over here on TikTok saying that Sam's a physical threat. Sam is going to go home, but Sam may also win immunity. That's also very true. I have a theory that the last 2 episodes, we have seen the preview, which again, we get to talk about this episode, which is very exciting. The preview of the episode 2 episodes ago was Kyle talking about, I believe, just like the game, his game. And then this past episode was a little bit of Sue and Caroline. And it kind of tipped me off a little bit that Caroline was maybe going home. And this coming episode, the preview was Teeny talking about the fallout. So I'm wondering, does Teeny go home?
Teeny.
Which I would be very sad about. But that is my tin hat theory.
I guess I could see it, but I just don't see the point in getting Teeny out.
I kind of feel like it's just like the where the votes land. Like, what if Rachel and Sue play their idol? It was gonna be Rachel, and somebody just throws one vote on Teeny.
Yeah. Yeah,
You know,
that's
like I
true.
feel like that could happen. Like, do I think it's the plan? I don't know that it probably will be the plan, but I just it could be just like one of those things where it lands because Andy did that. Andy threw a random. He didn't throw it on Teeny. He
Oh
threw a random
yeah.
couple of episodes ago. I think the Kyle. No, not the Kyle vote.
It was the I think it was the Kyle vote.
He threw a random vote on like Ra- Rachel or Genevieve, maybe. He threw a
Um,
random vote on somebody.
Let me see.
So I feel like that could be something he does again.
Yeah. Okay, so Andy voted Genevieve and Kyle voted Teeny.
Yes. So it was like a random Genevieve vote. So I feel like why wouldn't he do that again? I don't know why. I mean, I feel like Teeny would be weird, but like maybe Sam wins immunity. Everyone goes for Rachel. Rachel plays an idol, and then there's a random stray vote on Teeny. Or
Yeah.
anybody. Or anybody. Like,
Yeah.
I used to see that kind of happening.
Yeah. Maybe I'd go to Rocks.
Oh god. God. I would be so stressed.
Imagine.
Wild West says it wasn't random. That is true. It wasn't random. It was a strategic vote in case somebody played an idol, but I feel like that could
Mhm.
be happening again. So,
Yeah, I feel like that makes sense. I feel like if Teeny's gonna go out, I can't see Teeny being the plan. I could see it being like a rogue vote or a planned rogue vote
yeah.
on Teeny, and then
I don't know.
that's how
I
they
don't want
go.
to speak this into existence because I love Teeny and they're on my
I
team
know.
and I'm a Teeny fan. I will also say, have you seen that Teeny's been getting like a lot of like hate for this episode online?
Yeah.
I honestly, they were talking about it, didn't I don't even know what they said. I is that maybe that's bad on me, but I just felt like they were venting.
Yeah, and I feel like it was valid. Like in other seasons, we've seen people be upset about not being picked for rewards and things like that.
Yeah,
So
people were comparing this to Liz's meltdown, and I was like, I feel like that's a little different.
yeah, I saw that too. I saw the comparisons before I watched the episode, and so I was expecting like something big going into it, like Teeny doing something like equal to how Liz reacted, and I didn't think it was like the same at all. I thought Teeny was more tame.
Yeah, Teeny was definitely more tame in my mind. I think Ryan is saying that it was like Kellen from Ghost Island.
Oh,
Which I honestly have only seen Ghost Island once, so I don't really remember that reference, but Ryan does. So, and maybe people in the comments will also get that. Um, I will say, I just think that I didn't really take it that any which way because I come home and complain. You come home, you got to get something off your chest, and then you move on. So
yeah.
that's what I took it as. You get something off your chest, and then you move on, or you vote for Sam. I don't know.
Yeah, and, like, I mean, it was the letters from home, which I feel like didn't like, wasn't really even the main I feel like in other seasons, like, that's, like, a big thing that we see, like, in the episode, and I feel like it was not really talked about that much at all. Like, it was really overshadowed by
It
Operation Italy.
It wasn't I mean, it was an incredible plan, but it was, and I don't know if you noticed, nobody on there was married or had kids. Or I don't know if Genevieve is married. Sorry, Genevieve. Nobody had kids. I don't think Genevieve has kids. And
Um,
Survivor loves to make a meal about, kids missing their parents, which I mean,
yeah.
I get, but also people miss people too.
Yeah.
I
True.
wanted to hear Shannon, which is who is Andy's partner. I wanted to hear her message. I don't even think they showed it. They only talked about Andy's mom, which is great, but I wanted like
Yeah.
I'm a Survivor fan, and I wanted to hear like a little bit of hers out there too.
Yeah, and they get it looks like they get a lot of letters,
Yeah, those
like, a
those were those
bunch.
were like from acceptance letters to college. Those things were
Yeah.
thick. Um, but I will say, how do you feel about letters from home nowadays? Do you like that? Do you think they should just bring back loved ones visit? What do you think?
Yeah, I think they should bring back the loved ones visit. I feel like it just makes more of an impact, like a letter's fine, but it's just not the same as seeing the family members and like seeing the players' reactions to seeing their family members out there. I think they should bring it back. I think it's more entertaining.
Yeah, I agree. Genevieve says, or sorry, Skylar says Genevieve's whole loved one segment made me cry. That I mean,
Oh,
it did.
actually, yeah, that is true. That one was
It was really sweet. And I
it
also
was.
think that, like, back in the day, like, I think it was, like, Africa and Australia maybe. No, I think Australia, they IM'd, but I think in, like, Africa, they did video no, it was Thailand. They did videos from home, and I feel like they
Mm,
should do that. Like, a video from home would be so cute.
yeah, there's no
Like,
reason that they couldn't do that. Like,
exactly. And
it's
I think it would be
2024.
interesting. Exactly. It's what and if you're not gonna send them out, that's fine. Just send somebody over
And the
there,
video.
film it. It would be great. Um, Daryl said, has a comment saying her hate from for Sam was over the top. I've never seen anyone react that way to not getting picked. With Liz, it was because she was starving. Teeny just freaked out like he made a bad move. I hate Sam. I mean, but I think it wasn't, I don't even think it was a freak out. I truly think it was like um just her Teeny complaining and then also saying like I also think that in the moment I would have probably also thought that that was a bad move. If I were
Yeah.
Teeny and I saw somebody who was on the bottom pick somebody, the only person that they know, like Sam's the only person Sam is working with the Genevieve. So if you're looking at this from the other side, this is a time to build bridges. And yes,
Yeah.
Sam was able to choose Andy, right? That's one bridge. But why wouldn't you also try to build another bridge to maybe somebody else, but instead of maintaining the one you already have built? And I see that from the other side without obviously we know the outcome. We have hindsight is 2020. We know what happens. But
Mhm.
in the moment, I in any other season, I think this would not have worked out.
Yeah. I feel like it was just I think team was just frustrated, and I
Yeah.
think that's fair.
Yeah. Skylar says, I wouldn't call it a freak out. It's just teeny venting. Better to let out all your anger instead of keeping it in. Agreed. I agree with
Yeah.
that. I agree. I agree with that. Now, obviously, we see Operation Italy hit. Iconic, incredible, amazing. The three of them sitting there at Tribal Council will go down in history. It should be in the Louvre. It's just a
Mhm.
beautiful, beautiful image. Um, I okay. Before we go to break, I want to say, who do you think is the first one from these three going home?
I still think Sam.
I think Sam. Okay. I
Yeah.
think I agree with you. I think it's Sam. I think Genevieve has made it through a couple of votes, and I think Sam is going to be the first one.
Yeah. I think I mean, Genevieve has done a lot where I think in the end she could win, but I feel like Sam could potentially have a better case to win in the end instead of Genevieve, so I think Sam is a bigger threat to have there, so I think getting him first would be the smarter move.
Yeah. I get that. I get that. I think the smartest move would be to get out, which wasn't on the table, would probably be to get out Rachel.
Oh,
But
for sure.
that wasn't the question I asked.
Yeah.
So I don't even, Rachel right now is the physical threat though. She's won two immunities. Nobody
Yeah.
else except for Sue has won an immunity. So
And I saw something online that Caroline and Sue were, like, sitting far apart at the tribal, and, like, speculation if that was on purpose to maybe make Sue not play her idol to, like, make
ooh,
it go through. I don't know. I thought that
interesting.
was interesting.
Drama, drama, drama.
I don't know how the seating arrangements work, if they get to decide or not.
They definitely producers decide where they sit. I'm pretty sure.
Okay, so
I'm pretty sure because if not, I don't think that like Operation Italy would have sat right next to each other. They weren't in the middle, but the three of them were right like together. So that's,
interesting.
interesting, interesting. I will say, if you listen to Caroline's exit interviews, she talked a lot about how she was very adamant to everyone to not play. Like she knew about Sue's idol. She told Sue not to play the idol for her. She told Rachel not to play the block vote many times because she felt so confident in what was going on. Um,
Mm,
so, if the person that you're going to place an advantage for is telling you not to do it, I feel like I wouldn't do it.
yeah. Yeah.
But if you don't want to
I
do it,
mean,
I'm not going to, maybe waste it.
they offered and she said no, so what are they gonna
Exactly.
do?
Exactly. What are you going to do? Now, before we go to break and before we get to some of the questions that I got from the comments and in both venues, do you have anything else that you want to make sure we hit?
Hmm. Oh, I also was looking and I saw that Rachel is now the only person who hasn't had any votes against them yet this season, which is interesting.
We could have a
And
perfect.
I feel like, yeah, I feel like they should be thinking about that a little bit more. That's concerning.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
But
yeah,
we could have the first perfect game since 26, since Cochrane. That'd be crazy. First one to do
I
it.
could definitely see, I could see Rachel winning.
I could see Rachel winning too. I think I could see really anybody still winning. I think the winningness of maybe Teeny and Sue has gone down recently, so I feel like those two are probably not going to win. Teeny
Yeah,
wasn't a winner pick, so that is sad for me. But I could see Andy, Sam, Rachel, or Genevieve winning definitely.
I agree. I think so too. I think any of them could easily win.
I think they all have a valid argument too if they get to the end. I feel like they all will do, if any of those get to the end, I feel like they're going to be able to hold their own at Final Tribal Council. And I think we might even see if it is a final three, which I think it is, I think we could even see one where we don't have a 0 vote finalist.
Yeah, I think it would be so interesting to see like a combination of like Andy or even it would be interesting to see a final there of Andy, Rachel, and Sam,
Hmm.
and because the three of them from the original starting tribe, and then to see how they would talk about their games and how different they are in the end. I feel like that would be so interesting. Or even if swap one of them out with Genevieve, I feel like those four people in the end would be such an interesting final tribal that it would be
I
good
agree.
TV. It would be really good.
I think we're going to get two really good episodes coming up. I think there's a reason they
Yeah,
split it up into two. I think it's probably also because of scheduling, but I think there is a reason they split it up into two episodes. And I think it's because we're about to get some really good TV, or at least that's what I'm hoping for.
I think so. The season hasn't disappointed yet, so
It has not. It has
can't
been
disappoint now.
iconic since day one. Episode one, we had somebody on the mat in front of everybody just have like word vomit. And John Lovett got voted out. Like that's iconic for episode
It,
one. And
it
it
really
is
started out with a bang.
it really did. And it stayed incredible and just like so good. And like, oh my God, I can't believe
Yeah.
it's almost over, which kind of makes me sad.
No, it went so fast.
It did. It went so fast. Oh, it's such a good season. 40 several coming
Mhm.
through.
I can't, you know what? I cannot believe they haven't said that one time this season.
Do you think they didn't want to spoil it for I guess they knew. Oh, I guess they knew.
Yeah, they would
Yeah,
have seen
they knew.
it
I bet you they did. I bet you they said it at one point.
and they just cut it out.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All right. For those of you who are watching live, make sure to get any questions that you may have into the comments. We're going to get to as many as we can after we come back from this commercial break.
Hi, Survivor Now podcast listeners. I am Katie from KT Designs, better known as Katie Tedesco Art on both Instagram and Etsy. I have been designing and selling Survivor products for over 7 years at my Etsy shop, including replicas like hidden immunity idols and Survivor trading cards with all of the players' stats on the back. I am so grateful for Survivor Now for giving me this shout out and helping me reach even more superfans. I love listening to their podcast. So if you are looking for some really unique reality TV products for yourself or to give a superfan in your life, come check out my Etsy shop at www.etsy.com/shop/KatieTedescoArt.com.
And we're back, and it's time for Social Hour. All right, we have some questions that I got in the chat, so that we're going to get to those right now. I'm going to start off with this question from Dakota. Dakota always sends some amazing questions in. Dakota says, what role do you think the jury, aka Ponderosa, videos play in the end game? Do you think they play any kind of role in the end game, or just also in general, what kind of role do you think the jury ends up playing other than the vote?
like how they influence each other in the
Yeah.
jury. I think it does play a big role because I feel like the first person who was on jury is getting a lot of like has a different view of how the game was when they were in as to now like when Caroline got out. I feel like so much has changed, so I feel like a lot goes on in the jury to come to a decision. Yeah, I feel like I don't know. Does that even answer the question? I don't even know what the question is. That the question?
I think it's a little bit of both. Like I think, we're seeing in Ponderosa videos and Ponderosa in general, we get to see it's a window into what is happening at Ponderosa. Just a very small
Yeah.
window. And nowadays it's not curated. It is curated, but it's curated by the person who is on the jury, right? So if you watch the Ponderosa videos, you can kind of see into what they're thinking a little bit. But also you can just kind of see how people influence each other. Like if you think about old Ponderosa videos, you see them coming and getting onto the island and all of this stuff. And I think that having the jury being able to talk to each other really influences how they end up voting.
I think so too.
I think that the jury plays a huge role for many reasons because number one, obviously they vote for a winner, but they're not only voting for a winner, they're voting for somebody to represent their season in perpetuity.
Mhm.
They're voting for somebody they also probably want to be right when they vote. I think they want their vote to matter. So I think that's a lot of times why there are zero vote finalists. A lot of people didn't
Yeah.
vote for Michelle in season 40 because they didn't want Natalie to win. So instead they voted for Tony when they probably would have voted for Michelle. So I think that like having people being able to talk to each other, I do think it really influences how they end up voting. And I do think that, you look at season 37, the people who were at the beginning of the jury, they voted for Nick, right? But then you see people who at
Mhm.
the end of the jury, they voted for Mike White. And I think it's because they were able to see Mike White's game a lot closer than the jury was because it was happening to them. And people called it groundbreaking. They called it like some of the best
Yeah.
they've ever seen. And so it's just very interesting how the votes kind of turn out and what makes them that way. I think it's incredibly telling because obviously there are quote unquote bitter juries, but I just think it's a very interesting thing, and I can't wait to see how the votes land because it
Yeah.
will show how these players feel about the game.
I can see something similar maybe happening this season where the early jurors have a real different outlook than the later jurors. So I feel like it could be a similar type of thing.
Yeah.
Because
Daryl has his comment. Oh, sorry, go
yeah.
ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like, I don't know. I feel like you can have your opinion, like you know what like you went through and you experienced with the other players, and then like you hear what other people are telling you, but like I don't know if like is it really gonna change your mind that much, like what other people tell you, or are you gonna still go based off of your experience, you know? I don't know.
Exactly. And that's I actually perfect because of the comment that I was going to bring up. So Daryl said, from what I've heard, people wanted to vote for Russell when they first got voted out, but when they interacted with other people, it made them not want to vote for Russell. And I think
Mhm,
there's a key point missing there. It's when they interact with other people and they heard maybe I don't want to put these stories in other people's stories. I don't want to tell their story, but it's probably because they didn't know what Russell was saying behind their back, and then
mhm,
found out how Russell was playing, what he was saying behind their back. He just didn't really play very nice, and they got a bigger picture of Russell. And did they want that person to win $1 million, to win the title of Soul Survivor, to win season 19 or 20? And I think the answer is no. And I think this is when the jury can kind of corroborate moves, corroborate if is this person actually how I thought they were or are they not, and
mhm.
decide how they want to vote. I do think also it's a little bit of what I said, but it's also you learn a little bit about these people.
Yeah,
We also have this quote from Roy or comment from Roy saying, I don't think winners necessarily represent their season. I think Drew and Charlie are more visible from their seasons than the winner. And I'm not necessarily saying visibility on their season. I'm saying when I
mhm,
talk about season 46, Charlie and Drew are very important parts of that. But one thing I'm going to say is who won, and it's Kenzie. Kenzie is going to be the person that I correlate with 46 always. If I'm talking about
yeah,
season 5, it's
mhm,
Brian Heidick. If I'm talking about, I have these winners ready to go. And that's kind of what I mean by representing the season. It's just kind of the memory of it.
Yeah. I know, and that's why I feel like when you think of 47, you're gonna think of Andy. So, like, how does he not win? I feel like that's, like, just from the edit he's gotten, like, I feel like as soon as you think of the season, you're gonna think of him, whether he wins or not. So
Interesting you say that. We have this with this comment, this question from TikTok from Ethan Wesley saying, if Andy wins, how does that bode for winners edits going forward?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I know it is, like, he is getting such a strong edit where it's, like, it's too obvious, but, like, it's also, like, he is doing so much, like, how do you not include all of it? So
Yeah. And I think I think the thing about a winner's edit, Jeff said it himself, there is no such thing as a winner's edit. But what I think he means by that is there's no formula for a winner's edit. But I do think that there is an edit that a winner gets because that's just kind of how Survivor works. But I don't think it's the same thing every season. Obviously, it's because winners play different games. Kenzie played a different game than whomever's going to win this season. Maybe it's Andy. Cochran played a different game than Ben or Rupert, or Russ. What's his name? Whom I can't even think of who I was talking about. Whatever. They don't play the same game, so they're not going to have the same edit. I just think that his edit is really crazy, and if he wins, it doesn't mean that winners are going to get this edit going forward. I actually think it probably means that winners aren't going to get this edit going forward.
Yeah. I feel like we're not gonna see another edit like Andy's edit for a while.
Yeah. I think you're right. Wild West says, when I think of 46, I think of Q. True. 47 is Survivor Andy. That's very, yeah. Right now it is, definitely.
I wonder what the other players think about it.
I don't know. I think that this is something that I would love to hear them talk about. And I don't think I've heard them talk about because they really haven't talked about their edit because they talk more about their game in exit interviews. So I think it would be really interesting to kind of hear them talk about it.
I would love to know.
We have this question from Taylor. Taylor asked, imagine a final with Andy, Genevieve, and Rachel. Who wins? It's a really good question.
It's really tough.
So tough.
I think the votes would be split, honestly. I think they all get votes, and I think it'd be a very close vote.
That I think is going to be the closest vote, honestly, because I don't think Sierra is voting for Andy. I think Saul is voting. No, I don't know. Is Saul voting Genevieve? No.
Maybe Rachel?
It depends on how upset he is that she's the one that got him out.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, then, could Saul vote for Andy? Maybe.
Yeah, they could be so bitter at Genevieve and Rachel that they all just put it on Andy.
I think I could see Kyle voting for Andy for sure.
Yeah.
Because also Andy didn't vote for Kyle. I don't know if he knows that, but Andy didn't vote for Kyle. So that's like an argument. He never put his name down, which is the truth.
Loyal to the soil.
Loyal to the soil. Gabe, I think, is a toss-up. Caroline, I think, would vote for either Genevieve or Rachel.
Yeah.
Probably I don't know. Probably not Genevieve. Probably Rachel.
Yeah, I think Rachel.
Sue would probably vote
Rachel,
not Andy. Teeny,
Rachel?
I could vote Andy. It depends on how mad they are at this move because they were for this. So it depends on how betrayed they felt and if they hold the game, the strategy of the game over the betrayal. And if that's the case, then I could if they hold the strategy of the game over betrayal, then I think they're voting for Andy.
Yeah. That's a tough one.
And I could see Sam now voting for Andy because for a long time I was saying Sam is against Andy, but now that
I think so too.
I could see Sam voting Andy 100%. But if Genevieve's there, I don't know.
I don't know if Genevieve's there, and if Genevieve and Andy are there, I still kind of think Sam would vote Andy.
Really?
Yeah. I
Okay.
think especially after this, and I feel like he would go into the jury kind of, like, hyping him up a little bit. I think he would be team Andy in the jury.
Interesting. We have Daryl says I think Rachel wins because it seems like the people like her more, which could be
Yeah.
very true. Skylar says it's between Rachel and Genevieve for sure. Daryl says this jury
Well,
seems like they are going to vote for the person they like more, who is Rachel.
yeah, and I feel like, you know what? Thinking about this, I feel like this is why we're seeing so much of Genevieve in these past few episodes talk about how she doesn't have those personal connections and how it's important to like build friendships with people out on the island. And that's something that she's lacking. And I feel like that could definitely play a role into her not winning because, like, at the end of the day, I do think an important factor into what a juror is going to vote for is how someone made you feel while you were out there with them. I think that's one of the most important things that goes into voting for someone to win. And if you don't have a relationship with one of the people sitting out there, sitting in the final three, why would you vote for them?
Yep.
Why would you not vote for someone that you had a relationship with? And now it kind of does make sense. Like they are showing a lot of that and focusing on it with Genevieve. So I think that probably does come into play into
Yeah.
voting.
Yeah, I think you're totally right. I think I think the social game, that's why, I mean, this is Survivor Social. And obviously we talk about the social aspect of the game because I personally think it is the best, it's the most important part because
Mhm.
truly, if you do not like that person, if you are not, and maybe if you're not close with them, maybe not so much, but if you do not care about that person, if you don't like them, why would I give you $1,000,000? That's so much money. And I think a
Yeah.
lot of people downplay the fact that it's $1,000,000. Yes, it is the title of Soul Survivor, but it is actively going to change somebody's life. Maybe not so much as it did in 2000, but it is
But
actively
still, it's still a lot of money. Yeah.
if I'm out there with somebody that I despise, that never wanted to get to know me, that really honestly made me mad, that, whatever. Why would I make your life better and easier?
No, you wouldn't. You would give it to the person that you had a relationship with, that
Yeah.
you enjoyed being out there with.
Cara, if you
So
were in final 3 and I was over there on the jury and I was like, "Oh my god, I get to vote for my friend to become a millionaire." Incredible. Say less, I'm there.
yeah.
That's
Yeah,
simple.
for
That's I
sure.
mean, and that's why social threats are targeted early on in the game.
Mhm.
And
It is so important.
people who are smart are also targeted early on in the game, right? All of it's important, but like likable people go out early for a reason sometimes.
Mhm.
So
And that's why I think Caroline was a threat too, because I think Caroline was liked by a lot of the people. So I feel like getting her out wasn't bad. I feel like she definitely would have had that on her side in the end. And I think Rachel definitely has that out of basically anyone
yeah,
left on her side.
there's a great comment over here on TikTok. Ben said, voting for somebody you don't like to win is like giving your high school bully a Christmas present. That's real.
True.
Could you
Yeah.
imagine drawing somebody you hated at work for Secret Santa and you have to buy them a present? Am I gonna go out and get like the best thing I can get? Or am I gonna get like, okay, here's a bar of soap and not even a scented one. Here's that. Enjoy.
Yeah.
Honestly, Dove might even be a step too high.
That
Um,
honestly, that makes sense though. It's good. That was a good comment, Ben.
it's good. It's good soap. Dove, support us. Let's go.
Sponsor us.
Okay, so we do have more questions, so let's go to another question. We have this question that was sent to us in the comments over on TikTok. Bree says, "Why do you think Sue didn't play her idol for Caroline?" I think we talked about that a little bit, but let's talk about it a little bit more. If
Mhm.
you're Sue and Caroline's telling you not to play the idol, do you listen?
I mean, she shouldn't have listened, but I feel like Caroline was probably like really adamant about it to not
Yeah.
play it, so I'm sure that's why.
Yeah, I don't know. It's that moment where you like, do you listen to your own gut instinct first, or do you listen to what somebody else is telling you? And I feel like if she felt it was her name. So if Sue felt that maybe it was Sue going home, Sue would have played it for herself 100%.
Yeah, definitely.
But the fact that it was somebody else, you're risking it on somebody else and that person is telling you not to do it. I don't know. I don't know that I'm going to do it. You know, if I am protecting myself, yes. But if I'm protecting somebody else and it's not a sure thing,
Yeah. I could and, like, I feel like from what we've seen of Caroline, like, I could picture her, like, sitting Sue down, like, looking her in the eye and being like, "Don't play your idol for me. Like, save it for yourself. Like, you found it, use it on you, whatever. Like, I'm gonna be fine." Like, I can just picture that
yeah.
happening, and then Sue being like, "Okay, I trust you,"
Do
and
we
then not
think
using it.
it could be we've seen how nice Caroline is. We've seen she roots for somebody else in the same thing that she's doing. She's very positive, she's very nice. Do you think her niceness got the best of her? Do
Mm,
you think that she felt confident in herself and she was like, "You know what? I feel confident." Like she probably had a twinge of doubt, right? And she's like, "Well, I
yeah.
don't waste your thing on me because, I don't think I'm going home, so don't waste it." But really truly inside, she was like, "I really hope she plays it."
Ooh,
You know?
yeah.
'Cause I would do that probably, like, I could see myself doing that. "Don't do it now,
Like,
no,
to
that's
play it.
don't do it, don't play it."
I mean, maybe, yeah. I don't know.
It's a hard game. You have to be brutal,
It's
and she's been brutal a lot, but being brutal to somebody that
yeah.
you're close with and say one could be really difficult.
It honestly would've been so it would have been cool to see Sue have played it on Caroline and see how that then turned out. I mean, I guess it would have just gone to a revote, but, like, I feel like that would have made it would have been kinda interesting to see
Yeah.
going to the next
Oh
episodes.
my gosh. Do you think we're gonna see an idol get played, like, correctly this episode or this season?
No, I think they're just gonna play them and play them.
Yeah, I
Well,
think
maybe
or
not. Maybe Rachel. If anything, Rachel will play correctly. I don't think anyone's gonna vote Sue out where she needs to use it.
I could see something happen like a Marianne happen where, they don't play it at all and they bring it out. Like, I could see Rachel bringing it out at Found Shop Accounts and be
Yeah.
like, "I had this. I didn't
That's
need it."
why I kind of feel like the Sue playing it on Rachel could happen,
That would be
and
crazy.
then Rachel just keeps hers, you know? I don't know. Maybe.
Crazy. I don't know. We have this question that was sent in a little bit earlier from Bo. Bo says, "So a perfect game is having no votes against you. If Rachel plays her idol and nullifies votes, is that still a perfect game in your opinion?"
No.
Okay, so I was actually talking about this earlier. I thought that Jeremy played a perfect game in Second Chances. In my memory, because he got 100% of the votes. And I guess I just kind of forgot that he got a vote against him. I'm gonna look it up right now to see if he got votes against him. I mean, if he like nullified anything, but that was my theory earlier that's why I thought he played a perfect game. But I don't think that I think if you get any votes against you, if your name is written on parchment, I think it is no longer a perfect game, even if it's nullified.
I agree. Yeah.
I feel like, if anybody wanted to vote you out, like whatever, I just think that like that is um not good.
Like, you made a
But
mistake somewhere
yeah,
along the way that people want to put your name down, so, yeah.
exactly. Let me know if somebody in the comments tell me if I'm remembering this. Jeremy didn't play votes were cast against him with Kelly. Did he nullify anything? Maybe he didn't. Okay, when Kimmy went home. But
Mhm.
didn't he have an idol and he played it and it was nullified? Um
I feel like I just talked to someone about this. I can't remember exactly what it was, though.
Him and Kelly played the idol. Yeah. So I think that this has been done before and they don't consider him having a perfect game. The only people who are considered to have a perfect game are Cochran and JT. JT from
Mhm, mhm.
Token Sheens and Cochran from um Fans versus Favorites too. So because I literally was like gonna come on here and be like, Jeremy had a perfect game, but he didn't. So
Yeah. I think if Rachel doesn't win the next immunity, I think people are gonna put her name down, so I don't think she's gonna end up with the perfect game. I think her name will definitely be written down
I don't know. I don't know that she
the
wins
next
unanimously
time.
too.
No, I don't think so either.
Didn't Kenzie almost get a perfect game? Obviously, Like, did she get any votes against her throughout the game? I can't remember.
I don't know. I'll look it up. I don't remember either.
I know, obviously, she didn't get unanimous vote at the end, but I remember thinking, like, halfway through the season that if Kenzie made it all the way to the end, she would get a perfect game. Cochran's name was written down, though. His name was not written down in the second season he was on. Right?
Did one vote against her, Kenzie?
Oh, yes. It was Ben's vote by accident.
Yeah.
Accident. Which I don't really think I don't really think it was an accident. But Sandra was so close to a perfect game in her original season. It was insane. I know. Okay, so great question, but I do think that it's not, and I think this was a conversation that Big Brother this season also talked about, because the person who won Big Brother this season did have a perfect game, and everyone was like, but she didn't. But I think because she was put on the block, but I think in Big Brother, a perfect game is the same thing. Votes, you did not have a single vote against you. So.
Yeah, but also I feel like not being on the block makes it even more perfect. I
wonder if anybody's ever done it, not ever being on the block and then winning unanimously. I don't know enough about Big Brother to know that. Did Derek do that?
I don't know if he won unanimously, though. He was never nominated.
Wow.
Let me see.
That's crazy. But great question, Bo. That was I like a really good question. Okay, we have this question. Dakota asked, could Andy go out and fire? I don't know. I can't believe that he's not good at fire.
I don't know. I still think it's going to be, I don't know. Maybe we just talked about so much, and I'm looking into the edit, that it's going to be Rachel and Teeny in the fire, because they're the last two that we've seen with fire foreshadowing.
Yeah. I feel like that's going to happen too. But I also feel like Teeny's going home this episode, so I don't know.
And I think I saw someone in the comments say, I think it was the comments here, something about Sue going in fire because she has the dirty face.
If I'm them, I'm not putting Sue in fire, because Sue is the one who's tending to the fire all the time. Unless you want somebody out. Like, let's say it's Sue and Rachel at the end. Because then if I put Sue and Rachel at the end, I'm putting Rachel up against Sue, because I know Sue's good at the fire, because Sue is the one that tends to the fire.
Oh.
Maybe.
That's a good thought, yeah.
Maybe. I like this comment a lot. Daryl says, if Andy goes out on fire, he goes out in a blaze of glory. Absolutely.
Yeah. I don't know. Do you think Andy would like crumble under the fire pressure?
No. I think that Andy is playing like it's his. And I've got a hot take. I don't think this is a hot take. I think
he puts himself in fire.
Oh God, that'd be crazy. That'd be incredible, but crazy. Oh my God. Wait, I want that to happen now. Okay. No. I think Andy's playing like it's a second time out there. I think the first vote out, like I can kind of, I think he's kind of playing like Rick Devens after he got voted out and came back from Edge of Extinction, because I think in that first episode, he really, really felt like it was going to be him going home. And I think he saw himself leave the game, and he saw what he was doing wrong. And I think he has been working really hard to try to fix it. And so I think that ever since that first vote, he's really been just playing like he has been voted out of the game, and he knows what can go wrong. And he is using that knowledge to his advantage and playing like a second time player.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
So I don't think he crumbles under the pressure. I think he now knows what the pressure feels like, and maybe it's a different kind of pressure, but I think that pressure won't phase him now in the game, because he's in my eyes, a second time player.
Yeah. And I guess it's kind of crazy to go out there and not know how to make fire. Like, you might have to do it in the end. So.
Yeah, and I really cannot believe that Andy does not know how to, like, truly, he is such a big fan of the show. He's been trying for so long to get on the show. I think he got pretty far in casting a couple of times. There's no way he doesn't know how to make fire.
Yeah.
So, but maybe he does crumble. I mean, that's a very real thing. They could definitely crumble.
Yeah.
Okay, we had this comment that I think is kind of interesting, which isn't a question, but I just would love to talk about the possibility of this. So NY Cole says, super fan over here. I'm hoping Rachel hops onto the Operation Italy side, and hopefully they make it. Now, do we think this is a possibility? Because I don't see that happening.
Like Rachel joining Sam, Genevieve, and Andy?
And maybe voting out Stuart.
I don't think so. I don't see the point in that. I don't see why the 3 of them would want Rachel with them. I feel like getting Rachel out is the best next thing.
I could
Unless
see
they do it to make her feel comfortable.
Yeah. I could see Rachel winning immunity, and then they built like a possible, like a, hey, we could possibly join forces, and in the fear that she wins immunity, and then they work together because she won immunity. But I think that if Rachel does not win immunity, I think that she is going to be the biggest target out there, and she'll have to play her idol.
Yeah. I think so
Yeah.
too.
Because we have a good point over here on the TikTok comments. 28 Bright Wolf saying the whole point of Operation Italy was to get Rachel out.
Yeah, I can't see them teaming up with her. I think they need her out for a better chance at winning.
Yeah, I agree. All right, we've got this comment and question, or it's mainly a comment, but I thought it was interesting. From Roy saying, would love for Sam to go to Ponderosa this week to start explaining Andy's game. He can take credit for keeping Andy in the game and helping him gain confidence. And I thought this was an interesting thing to talk about. We did talk about Ponderosa a lot. But I think that would be very interesting to see him campaign for Andy. I mean, we wouldn't see it, but for a while, I felt like if Andy made it to the end, it would be like Sam, Sierra would see it kind of as a little brother beating you in a game of basketball when you win all the time. When I said when I was on Survivor Specialist, that image was kind of put in my mind, and I totally saw that. But now that Operation Italy hit and went well, I could see if Sam gets voted out, him being like, I can't believe, look at this. I took him under my wing, and he saved me for this one, thing when I was down and out, and really turn it and be like, I actually want my little brother to do well.
Yeah, I think if Sam was to go to jury next, like, I do think he's gonna be singing Andy's praises, and I think that kinda also goes back to where Sierra's gonna have a different view of Andy versus Sam's view of Andy, and I think that's, like, kind of what we were talking about before, but I can't imagine Sam at this point now being bitter towards Andy after what they just did, and, like, even looking back on everything, like, I feel like even though maybe they weren't closely playing the whole time and, like, they did things against each other, I feel like they still, like, kind of respected each other in a way where they were still kinda, like, not really going against one another.
Yeah.
So
One could not be here without the other. Andy needed Sam
yes.
when Andy needed Sam, and then Sam needed Andy when Sam needed Andy. And neither of them would be in Final 6 without the other person, and I think that both of them recognize that.
Yeah.
And I think that Sam particularly would vote for Andy because of that.
Yeah, and it's kind of the second time that Andy has saved Sam because, Andy could have voted Sam out in the Sierra vote out, and then he saved him again here, so I feel like I don't know, I can't imagine Sam being bitter towards Andy.
Yeah, I mean, and if he, let me put this here: if Andy gets to the final and Sam does not, and Sam is at Ponderosa and on the jury, and he is bitter, that is okay.
Yeah, and I guess, like, we've seen
World,
that
you saying it to the world
Yeah.
because last time we talked about somebody, I can't imagine somebody not being upset at this other person. The world ate them alive. So
Yeah.
I'm saying how somebody votes is their own reasoning, and it's okay however they vote.
Yeah, we've seen it happen before where, you have a different feeling while you're out there, and then
Yes,
you vote how you vote.
it is how it is. But I couldn't see it happening, but it might, and if it does, I won't be mad at you, Sam. I promise.
Yeah, I'm sure he'd have his reasons and
Exactly.
whatnot.
Exactly. Interesting. Daryl says Sam would vote for Genevieve over Andy. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I feel like I can't see Sam voting for Rachel.
You can't?
Yeah.
I agree, kind of. I don't I mean, I guess it depends on who is sitting next to Rachel, but I think that,
True.
if like let's say if it's Teeny, Sue, and Rachel, I could see him voting for Rachel. I don't see him
In that
voting
scenario, yeah.
I don't see him voting for Sue or Teeny. I think in any other scenario, I don't see him voting for Rachel, and I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
So, um Sorry, I was reading this comment from Zoe. Zoe says, I think he would, because this episode he said he would vote for Genevieve if she got to the final 3 and he didn't, and vice versa.
And he didn't.
I would like to know, can you I thought it was, can you say who he would vote for? Would he vote for Andy or would he vote for Genevieve? Okay, we have another question that was sent in on TikTok earlier. Okay. Koiskiv asked 3 returning players from this season.
Andy.
Andy.
Andy for sure.
Yeah.
I want to say Rome.
Honestly,
I don't know. Maybe he got out too early. I don't know. But I feel like he was entertaining. Well, not I feel like he definitely was entertaining. Maybe Sam.
Maybe Sam. I think Andy is a lock. And I think
Oh,
Andy is
for sure.
Andy, and I've said this before, I think Andy Malcolmed it and has already been invited back for 50.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it all depends on who's on 48 and 49. Now, the producers know who's on 48 already. So they kind of have an idea of what, is going to happen in 48 and, who they would want to invite back. Rome is somebody who's really interesting and really good TV. And I just feel like there might be somebody else kind of like Rome. So I could see somebody like recency bias in 48 and 49 that Rome doesn't get invited back. I honestly could see Annika being invited back because of her reaction. Oh. I think that was a memorable reaction. I don't think it's a lock like Andy. I think she was voted out really early. So it's just kind of like a what if, but like I could probably see it happening. And I could see Rachel's an interesting person. If Rachel doesn't win, I could see her being invited back, but again, not a lock.
Yeah.
I have another lock though, and I don't think it's a lock for 50. I think it's somebody being invited back just in general. Lock, John Lovett.
Oh, yeah.
And I think
he would.
Yes, in his exit interview, he said he would absolutely go back. Absolutely go back.
Okay.
I don't know if he said absolutely go back, but he said like, yes, I would go back. And I think the producers were obsessed with him. They were obsessed with him. And I know a lot of people who watched for John Lovett and stopped watching because he got voted out. And I think that in another season, like a second chances season or even a first boot season, he's a lock to come back.
What was the title? Like One Glorious Episode or something like that?
Yeah. One Glorious and Perfect Episode.
Yep.
So a lot of people in the comments over here are saying that Kyle would be is a possibility to come back. I could see that.
I really think Sam would.
You think?
I think so.
I love Sam. I think he's great TV. I do think his archetype, what's it called? Archetype? Is somebody that we have seen before and we will see again on Survivor. And so I think he is dependent on who was on 48 and 49.
Well, yeah, that's fair.
So I think, I could see a lot of returnees in the last couple of seasons. I could see a lot of people coming back. We got some really good characters.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, let's we have one more question that I saw in the comments over here on TikTok. I know it's hard to say. This is from Orion. I think it's Orion. I know it's hard to say, but is this season above middle tier to you? It's hard to say watching live, but I would definitely say it is at least in the top 20 of Survivor seasons.
Yeah, I think this season I think it's great. I think it's one of the better seasons.
I think it's the best of the new era. I will say, I have said that 3 or 4 seasons in a row.
And no, 45, 46, and 47, I feel like are, well, there are other good 40 seasons, but I feel like these 3 all 3 have hit in a row. Yeah. I liked all 3.
I will say 44 was really good, and I thought the best season of the new era. Then I thought 45 was better than 44, and then I thought 46 was better than 45, and then I thought 47 is better than 46. So it's like, and again, it's recency bias. I think you have to rewatch it. Like I think 45 maybe doesn't hold up on a rewatch because D kind of dominates, and that might not be interesting to watch, as a binge. True. But I think that this is going to be an interesting rewatch no matter what.
Yeah, this honestly might be one of those like Kagayan seasons where like this is the season people get into Survivor, where you're one of the most recommended ones to watch.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we have Jameson said 44 was lit to watch live, but the rewatch is and I also agree with that.
Yeah, 44. We've talked about this before, but it's on the lower end of the 40s for me.
Mm-hmm. And it's not because it's definitely not a good. I mean, it's not a great rewatch, but it's it's interesting. It's interesting when we're watching it. It's Survivor. I mean, at least for me, it's Survivor, and I love it, and I want more of it, and I can just eat it. And then thinking about it in the context of 47 seasons of Survivor, 24 years of this show, is a very different thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is all we had for the questions, or that I saved for the questions. So thank you everybody so much for sending in the questions on both TikTok and here over here on the live YouTube. We, as always, I say it really takes us down some really fun paths, and I'm sorry that we didn't get to all of the questions that I saw, but thank you again so much for sending them in. We do have a couple more segments that we need to get to, but we're coming up on one of my favorite segments of the episode, which is Cara's sweet thing in the episode. All right, Cara, for those who are new to the podcast, please tell us what a sweet thing is.
Okay, so I have a podcast with my cousin Kateri called the Sweet Things Podcast, where at the end of each episode we give our sweet thing of the week, which is usually like a food or a drink or something that we liked that week. And for Survivor, it's a little different. It's more like a moment or just something in the episode that we liked. This one, I don't know. It is kind of hard. I kind of want to say like I like the Operation Italy thing just because I'm Italian, and I feel like that was kind of nice.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go with that.
That's good. I mean, because it's incredible. It's so sweet. You could eat it. I love it. I am gonna go kind of like that, but my sweet thing is the editing of the episode, because I think the editing was so much fun, because it really did feel like it was a heist movie. With Genevieve pulling out the fake idol and like, I gotta put it away, and like them lie at tribal council, don't play it, like it's good. And then the cut scene of like the three like people, it's just so fun and really well done, and not like any other Survivor episode I've seen before. And I just think it was so good.
So good. Apparently, it's like the highest rated Survivor episode ever on IMDb. So,
and I think the Rome's boot episode, I think it was Rome's boot episode, or another one of Rome's episodes, was one of the highest since early Survivor days. So, really, truly, really good for Survivor and Survivor's longevity. We have some people commenting what their sweet things were. Daryl said my sweet thing was Genevieve's moment when she read her letter and said she doesn't have any friends. The letter was really beautiful. That was a really sad moment. Skylar said my sweet thing is the fact that Operation Italy plan actually worked.
Yeah,
absolutely. So I think that it was just such a good episode. It was kind of hard to pick a sweet thing. It was like so much happened. The whole episode was just incredible. Episode 12 is the sweet thing of the episode.
Yeah.
And I think we have one more award to give out, and this one is going to be difficult for me to do, and that's the Social Butterfly Award for the episode. I feel like this is a hard one. I don't know if you feel like this.
Really?
There is a lot that went on this episode, and I think a couple of people deserve this award. For those of you new to the podcast, the Social Butterfly Award is the person that we think who did the best this episode socially, not whole season, just this episode. Cara, who is your Social Butterfly of the episode?
This is like probably one of the easiest ones for me so far, and it's Andy. Like, Andy did that. Andy did this. He maneuvered with Sam and Genevieve to get them on board with him. He maneuvered with Caroline, Sue, Teeny, and Rachel to go along with splitting the vote when they didn't want to split the vote and not having any advantages played. I think this was Andy's social episode, and just a look at how good he is socially in the game.
Yeah. Obviously, I mean, everyone in the comments, Andy, 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 Andy. Over here on TikTok, it's just Andy, Andy. I think the reason why this is hard for me is because I think Andy is a very obvious choice, and I think maybe the correct choice and the one that I might land on. But I think that convincing Sam and Genevieve to go on board with his plan is like, they're on the bottom. They're out. They are looking for him to turn. He's the one who has to make that move. And so I kind of think Sam and Genevieve did a really incredible job at making him feel like, I want to work with you. Let's make this move. Actually convincing him that, like, hey, you're on the bottom. This has got to happen. And I think that also takes a lot of social capital as well. And so that's why it's hard for me, because like, is it better to have to be the one to create the plan, execute the plan, be on the inside, the spy on the other side, if you will? Or is it better socially to convince somebody else that you need to flip, you need to switch? And that's why it's hard for me. And I think it's Andy's episode for sure. Like, if we're giving the Andy the player of the episode, Andy 1000%. But I really do think that there is an argument for Sam or Genevieve, and I would even go as far to say Genevieve.
I don't know. I don't know. I feel like without Andy, I feel like they would have had nothing this episode. Like, I don't think any of the other ones would have flipped to them. I don't think they would have had any social capital without Andy coming up with the plan.
You're right, but why did Andy feel comfortable enough to, come up with that plan and flip? Because there's also a world, and we've seen this 1,000 times on Survivor, where somebody who's on the bottom, right, is talking to somebody else who's not on the bottom. The person who's not on the bottom says, hey, you know what, I want to save you, here's this plan. And then the person who is on the bottom goes and finds somebody else who is aligned with the other person and says, hey, look at this, like I baited the hook and they bit it, and can you believe they're willing to turn on you? Like, the fact that Andy felt comfortable enough to talk to them and flip and trust those two, I think also, those two also deserve some props.
All three of them.
All three of them, obviously, but that's why it's a little less obvious to me, because I think that like Andy doing what he did is really obviously incredible gameplay, incredible strategy, incredible all of this stuff, and he had to lie really well and make sure to convince other people to vote the way that he want, and he definitely had to use his social capital to do that. But I think without Andy trusting the other two, this does not happen. And I think they had to figure out a way to get him to trust them. So that's why I'm,
Yeah, I mean, but like, if they're gonna trust anyone, they're gonna trust Andy. And if, like, they're not gonna trust the other four, they have no reason to. And I don't know. I feel like Andy knew that they wouldn't go with the other four.
I think
it's valid though.
I think I'm going to give it to Andy just because it's Andy's episode and it would feel very wrong to not give it to Andy. But I do think that I needed to bring up those points, because I do think, wow, this was Andy's episode and just absolutely incredible and, fantastic for him. 3 people, a big part in this. And without all 3 of them, it would not have worked. And I think that some of the credit goes to the other 2. So
yeah, and I see people like saying how like Genevieve's apology was like the beginning of it, and like we also saw Sam apologize to Andy, and I'm sure that did like help a lot, and that was important that they did that for Andy, I'm sure.
And again, another thing for Andy, for Andy winning this, Zoe says, according to Caroline's exit press, it was actually because she felt like this, quote, getting out Genevieve, unquote, was his move to claim, and she needed to allow him to do that. She called it, quote, Andy management. And I think that is, he knew how other people saw him. He knew what he needed to do. And I think that, he used that to his ability. And I think that shows that he, you know, knows where he stands socially, you know, even if it is Andy management and all that stuff, it worked for him. So I think you're right. We do have to give it to Andy. But it's just, it was an incredible episode, incredible strategic episode.
I feel like this isn't the first time we hear people managing Andy, and it's like working out for him. So
maybe. Oh my God. I can't believe we are so close to the end of the season.
I know, it's crazy. It really went so quick.
Oh my God. We have none other than Randy in our comments. We've had some great interaction tonight. Can we just admire how insightful Tegwyth and Cara are? Yes, admire us, please.
Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you. Okay, before we head out tonight, I do want to ask Cara, what are you looking forward to most in this next episode coming up in a couple of days?
Ooh, I really am looking forward to seeing like the fallout from that vote and like what everyone's opinions are on what happens and how they navigate that. I think that's going to be so interesting into who goes home next and just how it goes on. And so I'm really excited to see that all play out.
Yeah, I agree. I'm also really excited to see how Andy, you know, if Andy's lie actually works. Because, you know, we heard him say, you know, I decided to do that right before tribal council. And I'm interested to see, you know, if it was worth him to do that, if it wasn't. And I think that this fallout is going to be really, really, you know, amazing. As always, sorry, I was reading the comments. I'm not great at multitasking, everybody. I'm sorry. We do have a really exciting episode or week coming up this week. As always, we have our pre-show with some really fun people over from Wicked Unscripted, which is a wonderful podcast. They're also on TikTok as well. They do a lot of Big Brother content. That's going to be at 7 p.m. on Wednesday, so make sure to check that out. As always, the after show that same day, Wednesday after the episode, Eastern time. Make sure to check that out as well. Unfortunately, I'm an events director at a restaurant, and this is my very, very, very busy season. So we are going to actually figure out another day to do Survivor Social as well, which that's on me, guys. I'm very sorry, but thank you to everyone who always tunes in and finds us, even when we're on different days. Friday, as always, Stock Watch. That's going to be at noon, and Got Something For You is Saturday at 3 p.m. We've got some really exciting people, some guests coming up. When we do find our time for Survivor Social, we've got another TikToker coming on, Emily, who again is an amazing Big Brother person. And so this is their first season to watch Survivor Live in a long time. So it's going to be really interesting to hear from her perspective. As always, Cara, where can people find you if they want to, you know, talk to you about Survivor outside of the comment section here?
Sweet Things Podcast or XOX_Cara on Instagram.
Amazing. I'm going to do a little shameless self-plug. My merch is still on sale. If you would like to buy some, shopteg.com. You can also find me on Etsy. I've got some really fun designs. And I think if you still order until the 11th or 12th, it'll come in before Christmas. So make sure if you are interested in that, go check out the website. And I have to make sure I put up this comment from Randy. Am I actually going to pick a winner correctly? Cheering for my girl, Genevieve. And then lastly, last little promotion, Survivor Now podcast, new holiday apparel available now via the link in the description. Or as always, visit our website, survivornowpodcast.com. Thank you again so much to everybody for tuning in, chatting with us, asking us questions. You guys are what make this podcast so much fun. So thank you so much. We will see you next week at a time, I promise. But until then, make sure to enjoy the episode finale part 1 and stay social. See you guys next time.